Welcome to another edition of What Barrie's Talking About from Barrie 360. I'm Dan Blakely. On this week's program, from speed cameras on the streets of Barrie to red light cameras, the discussion is underway. The Barrie Colts open their first round playoff tonight at Saddleton Arena against Niagara. We get a preview. Last few days to help a good cause, March in for a mulleter trim ends on Monday. The Barrie Public Library's branching out some more, and Autism Awareness Day is coming up. We get reacquainted with a Barrie woman and her staff who are making a big difference. We get the conversation started after this. This is What Barrie's Talking About from Barrie 360. I'm Dan Blakely. We've had speed cameras rotating around school zones in Barrie for more than a year now. Some call it a cash grab. Others believe it's helping to keep school zones safer. Now there's talk of red light cameras in Barrie. They're in use in several Ontario cities. Ward 9 Councilor Sergio Morales thinking it's time they came to our city. He's on the line with Barrie 360's Ian McLennan.
Why did you put this motion forward?
Because people are sick and tired of fearing for their lives when they cross intersections. Nobody wants this, but we're at the point where we need to have it. We're at the point where people have accepted that it's no longer something they can count on for people not to be selfish and run clearly red lights at major intersections. And the time has come to have this conversation, investigation about what a red light camera system would look like in Barrie.
I mean, we've seen video of red light runners in Barrie. I'm wondering if you've talked to your colleagues or the police and their take on it too, if this is a necessary thing.
Yes, I'm hearing constantly from residents. I'm hearing constantly from different community stakeholders who said, hey, you moving this motion a couple weeks ago and getting started in the process made me just kind of like stop in a parking lot on Bayfield and just take a look at the lights. And it takes less than 10 minutes to see multiple people run red lights. And it's definitely something that people are seeing. And once again, it is not something that I take lightly. It's not something I wanted to bring. In the past, I've actually had been opposed when the subject came up in 2016, 2017. I had been publicly opposed to red light cameras, but obviously the reality has changed in Barrie, and we have to change with it.
And obviously the risk of lives being lost. I'm just wondering, in terms of infrastructure costs, how does that work, and who pays for the installation of the cameras and maintaining them, and how many would you like to see?
I am not at all concerned about the cost of red light cameras when weighed out to the benefit of saving lives of people getting unexpectedly T-boned at intersections. I'm not saying that's a blank check. What I'm saying is that there is going to be a cost to it, and that's what the investigation is going to say. There's going to be a recommended list on how many to have. I expect it to be at least over a dozen, and I'm sure that there's going to be some people are going to want more, some people are going to want it in different locations, and that's for council to have that conversation, not just for myself to have it, but myself only. But when it comes down to the basic numbers, how much is too much. I don't think that the cost here is an impediment, and also potential revenue that comes in isn't the motivator. I've been asked before, do you want these to be revenue neutral? Do you want it to generate money for traffic calming? Do you want it to cost how much are you willing to let it cost taxpayer money? The answer is that it doesn't matter to me. It's because revenue seeking or revenue neutrality is not the motivator for this. The motivator for this is keeping people safe.
According to iSure.ca, there are over 300 red light cameras in use right now across Ontario, vast majority in Toronto, then Ottawa, Peel, Region, Hamilton, London, KW, and Cambridge and Sudbury are the others. How does this work in terms of dollars and cents? Is there any revenue generated from these tickets that would go back into City of Barrie coffers? How does it work? Is it like the speed cameras?
It will be up to council to decide how the distribution of revenues works, but the intent is never for this to become for it to go into general coffers. Like when you set something up that goes back to general coffers, now you become dependent on it, and that's when people get cynical about government. Government just put these up because they want more money. That's not the case. So while I don't speak on behalf of council, and council will make this decision, I can pretty confidently tell you that won't happen and to put into general coffers. What we did with the school zone cameras is we made sure it went back to traffic calming initiatives. So, the more people speed in school zones, the more whatever money is left over, a lot of it goes to different courts and different agreements we have with just different legislative structures. Whatever is left over, which is a percentage of what comes in, does go into traffic calming. So we'll probably follow some sort of similar model on this. And again, at the end of the day, at the beginning of the day, and in the middle of the day, the goal is always to stop the behavior.
Would the city reveal where the red light cameras are located?
I believe that it is required to have a red light camera ahead signage if it's consistent with the other municipalities.
Now, looking at Toronto data collected, now this is only between 2008-2014, but where red light cameras were installed, collisions down by 23%, fatal collisions down by 40%. The data is similar. The numbers are a little different in places like Peel or Ottawa. Have you looked at the data yourself in communities that have red light cameras? And if so, what's the messaging you take away from it?
Yes, I've looked at the data, and it's enough that it motivated me to finally initiate the process to move forward with this. However, I'm also cognizant of the fact that the data that is other municipalities' data, and Barrie's might be different. It might be a higher decrease of fatal collisions or it might be a lower one. It has to do with the flow of the road, the volume, the slope of the road, the topography, the angle of the road, blind spots. So there's lots of nuances that will make it different in Barrie. But again, I think the data speaks for itself, and running red light cameras is an act of selfishness, one of the highest ones that you can while operating a vehicle. Most City of Barrie residents expect that when they get in their car and they drive where they need to go and go home, that they're going to come home alive. And we are seeing way too, and it's not just because we see it more because there's more dash cameras. It is actually occurring more, and whatever we can do to mitigate it and have the reductions that we've seen in other communities is something that needs to be at the very least explored in Barrie.
So city staff will do their homework. Do you put a timeline on when you would like to hear back and to city council?
I purposely didn't put a timeline on it, but I would expect this to be 6 to 9 months for it to come back for consideration.
They've made it. The Barrie Colts open the playoffs tonight at home against the Niagara Ice Dogs. Colts writer and broadcaster Gene Pereira joins our Will Conkin for a series preview.
Welcome to the playoffs, Gene. This is where the real season begins. The Barrie Colts wrapped up the regular season with a 3-1 loss to the Owen Sound Attack, then an 8-1 win over the Niagara Ice Dogs, who they'll be playing in the first round. But in that final game, they gave a nod to the overagers on the club, Bo Jelsma, Dolan Wakely, and Owen Van Steensel. Gene, tell me about the emotions and just the overall atmosphere in that final game.
Yeah, obviously the last regular season game for the overagers and, for Van Steensel, Wakely, and Jelsma, an emotional night. They had a ceremony before the game honoring the three, and, you can really tell, it was their final regular season game. All three players were buzzing out there, and they all had big games. And, when you talk to these guys, they always talk about how quick the whole experience goes. You arrive as a 15, 16-year-old, and now before they know it, here it is, their OHL season, the regular season coming to an end, and the playoffs, however far they go is what's remaining. So it's a special night, and I think there's a lot of emotions for these young guys that are going through this. It's been a big part of their lives, hockey is, and the pursuit of a professional career. But there's a lot of friendships in that dressing room, and a lot of time spent together. And I think that all comes to a head there in that final regular season game. And it was a nice tribute by the Colts and having their families out for what was a special game.
Yeah, you were mentioning off air that Bo Jelsma, he was talking about that he had a lot of leaders when he was younger and first getting into the organization and wanted to pass that on to the next. Do you want to talk about that as well?
Yeah, Bo was saying that he arrived just around the COVID post-COVID, and wasn't sure if he was going to make the team, and he talked about guys like Ethan Cardwell and Veerling. They kind of take you under their wing and just kind of help you get along. Obviously, for a lot of them, it's the first time living away from home, and they rely heavily on their teammates, and it's something. The reason why Bo sports to see is that he's tried to do that for the younger players now. That he's a veteran in understanding what the young players are going through, and trying to give them a shoulder to lean on. So it's always a special. It's amazing seeing these young guys grow up. They grow up so much in the years that they go through the OHL, and Bo Jelsma is certainly one. Just one of the really great kids that sport a Colts jersey. He's a leader, and he plays the game with passion, and it's hard to not cheer for a guy like Bo Jelsma.
So Barrie was 5-1 against the Ice Dogs in the regular season. What are your first initial thoughts about this matchup?
Yeah, you look at the season series, 5-1. Barrie was 5-1 versus Niagara, but make no mistake, this is a Niagara team, and talking to Marty Williamson, and talk to some of the guys, you got to be careful come playoff time. Everything, that happened in the regular season, that's wiped out. It doesn't matter. You start, on even ground, and, I think the story is we can simply look at the Barrie Colts of last year, where they worked their butts off to get into the playoffs, and, they faced an Oshawa team that was much older, much more experienced, and they weren't given much of a chance, yet they were proved Oshawa's toughest foe. Took them to 6 games, and that series, had they won that second game, they might have pulled off a huge upset. So they were well aware. Talking to Bo Jelsma, he knows. He looks across at Niagara, and there's a lot of similarities there, he says, to the Barrie Colts of last year. A lot of young talent with this Niagara team, and they have to be careful.
What's the significance of a possible long playoff run? You mentioned Bo Jelsma again there in his final year. He had some emotional words about what a championship would mean to the city.
Yeah, when you talk to Bo, he makes it clear, he loves to win and he hates to lose, and you really can see it in his face after every game. If it doesn't matter what his individual, whether he got a couple of goals, 3 goals, that type of thing, or he's kind of sour after a game. That's kind of what I like about him, is he's not happy. It's for him, it's all about winning and being successful, and he talked about that with an opportunity. His biggest thing is obviously he wants to win, but he wants to bring a championship to the city of Barrie, a hockey championship. It's been a while. It's been a long time. Barrie has just got the one OHL championship back in 99, 2000, and it's a while. He wants to bring another one to the city. The opportunity is there. He says you don't get many chances in your junior career where you have the team. Everything's come together, and this Barrie team, it's a veteran group, and the opportunity is there. And he says you got to take advantage. He wants to do it, obviously, for himself to win a championship and for his teammates, but for owner Howie Campbell and everything. Bo said he's done for them, he's done for the players, and especially for the fans. And he says that would he says it'd be a great way to put a bow on his OHL career.
Bo, indeed. You chatted with head coach Marty Williamson. What was he saying about the matchup?
Yeah, Marty Williamson kind of repeated the fact that he wants to see his team come out of the gates strong. It's been an issue this year at times with slow starts, and getting that confidence going right off the hop, and then consistency. This team, they've played. You've seen play that is really slow, and in the next period they're dominant. And playoff time, a lot changes. It's a lot tighter, usually tighter scores, and there's less ice out time out there. And one brief lapse could be it. That's all it could take. It could be one goal could make a huge difference. And the playoffs are certainly different. It's a lot tighter, and that's where you got to be. You got to kind of put the foot down on the pedal, and every shift that you're out there. And it's just a lot more intense, and I think getting that message across to his team, and as well, he talks about if you're playing well, just keep playing well, and regardless of what happened, you run into hot goaltenders, and in Florida, the Niagara Ice Dogs have a goalie capable of stealing hockey games. But they've managed to, like I said, play well against Niagara this year, and they got to keep that going here through this playoff series.
Who are some of the key players on the Colts fans should keep an eye on?
I think in this series, obviously you look at the snipers, Romani for Barrie, and that line of Romani, Wakely, Van Stiesel, they've been very good of late. But guys like Cole Bowden, Bo Jelsma, just heart and soul. It's nice to see Brad Gartner lately starting to come about offensively. He's playing really well down the stretch here, and even a young guy like Jaden Newton, who's in his second year, and he's a center in that fourth line. And but again, he always plays with that grit. He goes out there, he gives you minutes, but the nice thing to see here is down the stretch is obviously he's started putting up some points, and that's a huge difference. You need depth scoring in hockey, and Jaden's played really well of late, and the points are starting to come, and that's a result of his hard work, and that'd be certainly nice to see that continue here in the playoffs. And
Gene, could you see anyone being an unsung hero on the Colts? Who would that be?
I think you got guys like Newton, Carter all year. His ability to kind of rotate up and down the lineup when there's injuries, his versatility. A guy that's scored some big goals. But even on the back end there, a guy like Evan Passmore just goes about his day doing his work and stuff. He's just kind of one of those old school defensemen, big, strong, tough, physical. A guy like that is going to log minutes, and obviously, but again, I think guys like Gardner kind of gets lost a bit here, and even like a Brody Stewart who is just a hard worker and a great setup man. So I think those are a couple of guys for Barrie that could stand out. Again, they have tremendous depth, and I think it's one of their strengths against other teams is that they don't have to rely on one line kind of to do their scoring. Up and down the lineup, they can produce, and that's the nice thing.
And what's your outcome for the series? What's your prediction? How it will end?
This is always, this time of year, but again, this Barrie team, in the second half here, they played 500 hockey, and you never knew game in and game out what you were going to see type thing. But this team wants to play hockey. They're one of the best teams in the OHL without a doubt, and I think there's just going to be too much for Niagara. I mean, Flores might help get Niagara one game. That young offense, Rohrbeck and Kevin He, and Niagara can put the puck in the net, but I don't expect this series to go more than 5 games. I think Barrie, they look pretty good down the stretch for the most part, and they play their game. They're just going to, there's too much experience. Their goaltending's outstanding themselves, so I see Barrie not being more than 5 games this series.
So game 1 is tonight at Sadlin at 7 p.m., and then game 2 is at Sadlin as well on Monday. Thanks as always, Gene, and again, nice to be in playoff hockey.
Thanks, Will. It's hopefully fans back the rink.
This is What Barrie's Talking About. I'm Dan Blakely, welcoming back Amber McCauley, who is a snip or two away from the end of her March In for a Mullet or Trim campaign. You were here a month ago to tee things up, so we wanted to bring you back for an update and to light a fire under a few more people to help you put this endeavor over the top. So lay it out for us.
Oh, it's been busy since I saw you last. As you said, I got myself a mullet cut. I can say I kind of don't mind it. It's a shullet, stylish look. So any of you listeners who are thinking a mullet is like a really terrible haircut, I can say from my experience, it's not that bad. We have raised we're about the halfway point with the campaign. So we wanted to get 25 mullet cuts. So 25 people signing up to be a mullet warrior. We have about half that. and we wanted 50 trims. So if mullets aren't your thing, but you want a spring trim, leave a donation, we're at about half that. And we're also at about half our money's goal. So we want to raise roughly $5,000. Anything above that we'll gladly accept. But if we can get to $5,000, that would be great.
And you were telling me before we sat down here about the Australian experience with this, which is kind of your long-term goal because they're doing huge things there.
Yeah, they're inspiring me. So the Mullets in March for Mental Health Initiatives is not my thing. It's not a unique idea. I mean, it's different, but there are little movements happening internationally. One of the biggest ones I've found online is in Australia, and they've raised over $1 million. And I'm just thinking that, we need to get to that point.
Look how far you've come from that first one, which was pre-pandemic, right?
Yeah.
Very small, very, modest start.
Yeah.
And it's built up. The pandemic took some steam out of things, and so you've built it back up again. All right, tell us the causes, because you have a special guest with you who's been a benefactor of that. So tell us what all this is for, and then we'll meet her.
Yes, happy to do that. So we have a few collaborators who are working collectively on some different projects, supporting youth and young adults who are maybe struggling due to discrimination, systemic barriers, whatever their struggle may be. We're providing free access to programs that facilitate tools for mindfulness and meditation and restorative justice, like how to build healthy relationships and navigate conflict. We've run a few programs in the last year successfully. People also have access to good food boxes with Barrie Families Unite. So it's really, I can say, a wraparound initiative. Even with Georgian College, we do motorcycles and maintenance and blend that with restorative justice and mindfulness. So I am really excited that one of the participants who has learned restorative justice and mindfulness is joining me today to share a little bit about her story and learning those tools. And she's going to be one of the benefactors of the funds that we're raising with the March In for Mullet or Trim. So really excited to have you. Thank you, Sherilyn.
Thank you so much for having me here today.
So tell us your story. What's gone on? How did you come to be connected with all of this?
Well, life has thrown lots of twists and turns at me. And I've always felt that I just had to keep going until I reached a point where I truly felt that I needed to do something about what was going on. And so I seen a poster posted in my apartment building for the Restorative Justice Program. And I decided to make the call. And I was a little nervous at first because I wasn't sure what to expect. But the journey has been amazing. I have learned so much about myself within that program, just learning kind of to take things slower, to focus on myself and not everything going on around me.
It's a huge leap, even taking that step, though, isn't it?
Oh, yes.
Getting to the point where you understand and you realize that you can't do this by yourself, and there's a service over there, but you're very nervous about doing that because you're putting yourself out there. You're admitting that there's an issue here that has to be dealt with, and you might be embarrassed by that, and now you're going to tell other people about it. But you did it, and this is where other people are going to pick up on how, you were apprehensive, I guess, at first, but you took that step.
Yeah.
And it worked.
Yes. Like I said, I've learned a lot in that journey, and I've really learned to focus more on what mattered to me and less about the noise around me. Because at the end of the day, we can only control our own thoughts and feelings and emotions and not everything around us. So that made a huge difference. Learning the tools in my mental health toolbox that helped me to kind of carry out each day. One of the biggest things being mindfulness. So I've been focusing on different mindfulness techniques each day, daily, that have really helped me to kind of control how I'm feeling and not only control my feelings, but also kind of quiet the noise around me.
You use the word control several times there, and that's the key to all of this, right? You're taking back control of everything because you alluded to the fact that you had all this noise around you, and we're so impacted by what other people think, what other people do, and what do they think of me? What am I doing? How come they're looking at me? What's going on? What are they thinking about me right now? And when you can shut that out, which you appear to have been able to do, for the most part, maybe you're still working on that.
Still working on it.
But as you say, you're taking back your life. You're taking control of it. You're in charge again. All these other people aren't.
Yeah, exactly. And it's a beautiful thing to witness, really. And I think other people see it around me too. I'm walking around a little bit taller with a little bit more of a smile on again, that I've lost over the years. I'm back at it, and
you're in a
ready
good place.
To see where it goes.
You're in a good place.
Yeah.
All right. So how is the program going to help in the next months and years?
Yeah. So with Sherilyn's scenario, she attended the program. The first time folks enroll in the program, it's free. When they enroll again, so they go to a level 2, they actually get an honorarium. So we actually pay them in gift cards to come back. And they invite a friend or a family member or neighbor. And it really kind of organically grows the network of support through that honorarium program. After that, we have a few scholarship opportunities for the individuals who are really serious about taking this a step further. So that's where Sherilyn is at right now. So thanks to initiatives like this and fundraising efforts, she's going to get a scholarship to mindfulness teacher training with the Global Minds Collective. So then after that, she'll be able to share these tools with her community. Really, the big dream would be that people who have experienced the program, who have lived experience with their struggles, relatable experiences, can actually get to a point like Sherilyn where they feel ready to share the tools and kind of pay it forward. So a really exciting addition to the development of the program. And with all the collaborators that are on board with this March In for a Mullet or Trim campaign, we really think that we have a unique idea that's going to make sustainable changes for our community.
All right, before we get back to mullet or trim, how can people reach out if they think they're ready to take that step? Or they want more information, they want somebody to give them the little tug in that it's okay, you can do this. How do they reach out?
Well, if you want something a little more like motorcycle, hands-on skills, we have Shift Disturbers program. There's a Shift Disturbers website. We're on social media, Facebook, Instagram. And it's a really simple process, very low barriers to accessing the programs. You basically sign up and we'll get back to you. We've got lots of space in programs. We also have R&R programs for restoring relationships, again, on social media and Facebook, Instagram. And it's a simple form, and we get back to you right away. We have an April program that's starting up for the R&R programs. And we don't make it that complicated. You don't have to go through your doctor or, get these big referrals. You don't have to prove how worthy you are, how much you're suffering to have access. If you really want to learn about restorative justice and mindfulness and build a sense of community and belonging, we have a place for you.
This is why it's important that people jump in on this mullet or trim deal in the month of March.
We have a couple stylists who will do cuts by demand.
Okay.
But an individual would have to reach out to us. So the @mullet or trim campaign is where you'll find us on Facebook and Instagram. And if, on the 27th of March, you all of a sudden wake up and you're like, I actually want to participate, we will find you a stylist.
So the goal was 25 mullets and 50 trims. You're halfway there. We want to go over the top.
You do.
Look them up, sign up. Let's get it done. Thanks for coming.
Thanks, Dan.
Another branch of the Barrie Public Library is taking seed to make it easier for more of the city to access everything it has to offer. Here again is our Ian McLennan with Library CEO Lauren Jessup.
Now, it just seems like yesterday you opened a boutique sort of library in Hawley. There's talk of more expansion. And the northwest part of Barrie, what specific area are you looking at?
Yeah, we're looking in the Northwest, like around the Letitia Heights area.
And why that Northwest quadrant? What's you're hearing from the public or?
So a couple things. So back in 2017, 2018, we worked with the city on a master facilities plan. So that's where you have a consultant do some work to look at the community and find areas where you're going to need facilities or you'll need to repair the facilities that you have. So the plan lays out a 6-branch library system in the city. And so one of the locations that they recommended that we put a branch is in the Northwest. So we've been kind of keeping that in our minds for a while, and it seemed like a good time to move into that neighborhood. It doesn't have very many services. It's a very established neighborhood, lots of homes and lots of families in there, and no convenient access to a public library.
How would this roll out?
So we're working right now with city corporate facilities. They're looking around the neighborhood to see what's available in terms of spaces that we could use for a library. So we're leaving that aspect to them, and they're going to put forward some recommendations to council in the coming weeks, months, and we will go from there. And then it's our job to look at the inside of a space and fitting it out with shelving and furniture and the collection. What we're planning on doing next is a community survey. So coming this spring, we're going to roll out a community survey so that we can get a sense of library usage in that neighborhood now. Like, are they traveling to come to a location? If they are traveling, what are they accessing in our locations? What do they wish they had access to? That sort of thing. So that is the next step, is rolling out that community survey. And then over the summer, we'll look at potentially doing some more focused discussions with different stakeholder groups. So looking at the youth in the neighborhood, the seniors, talking to them and finding out what would be really beneficial if we were to put a location in their neighborhood.
Now, obviously, you did that with Holly in the Essa and Mapleton. Mm-hmm. And maybe give us a refresher on the so-called boutique library that Holly became.
Yeah, so the master facilities plan does lay out a larger space in both Holly and in the Northwest. However, in these established neighborhoods, it's really hard for us to find a spot that's big enough, right? So what we're looking for right now is a space that can accommodate just what we need. And actually, one of our board members coined that boutique library term. So it's like a little mini branch. It has everything that you need, but you also have access to the full library system. So you're not restricted in terms of the collection. You can borrow things from any location and have them brought to that small one. So that makes it access to larger, but you're in a smaller footprint. So I think we will look in the Northwest for something similar to what we have in Holly. Not to say it'll necessarily be exactly the same. Community needs are different in each neighborhood, and we may focus on a different area. We've learned a little bit since we opened Holly as well. There's not enough room for programming there.
I think the neat thing is about a library, just that it's so community. I mean, there's Holly, there's Painswick here in the south end close to us, and Big Bay Point Young area, and then they've got the main branch downtown. That it almost seems like it's not a neighborhood without a library.
Yeah, I mean, I have to agree with you. I think that having a library in every neighborhood would be amazing, because especially when it's walkable and it's easy to access, it's one of those things that if it's hard to get to, you might not bother.
Some people said in the survey, too, with Holly, that even though as Barrie grows out, getting to the downtown branch takes a bit of time, et cetera.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, the city of Barrie it's got the bay, it's got the 400. It's a little, there's traffic. It's a little bit harder to navigate. And we know not everybody has a vehicle or easy access to transportation. So it's beneficial for everybody to have a location that's easy to get to, whether that's by active transportation or you're walking or carpool or using city transit. And
the library, I guess the proof is in the numbers in terms of the access, people that are using Holly. Do you have numbers off the top of your head, or how people have embraced the library?
Yeah, so last year in 2024, Holly made up like 90,000 plus of our visits. So we had over 500,000 visits to library locations across the city, and Holly itself made up about 90,000 of those. So that's pretty good for a tiny little location like that. That means that the people in that neighborhood are using that location really readily.
What challenges do you find in terms of, dollars and cents to the funding to open a new location and also to attract people to the library that you have to grow with and, change with the times too?
Yeah, of course, the city of Barrie is growing and we're seeing that usage go up. The last 2 years, we've added 12,000 plus new library members, which is far greater than any other years that we've ever had. So we are seeing that growth and that usage increase. So our budget is, of course, stretched like everyone's, and we are dealing with the effects of inflation and everything costs a little bit more. We're doing our best to find ways that we can make our service more efficient using technology and working with the city of Barrie. They're doing Lean Six Sigma projects, so we're working with them on some of those projects as well. As we expand the system, of course, that costs money. It's going to cost money in terms of adding additional staff and adding the space and the collection. In terms of capital costs for a new location, the library board has been frugal and has been saving money in reserves because we know that our system is growing. So the city of Barrie is expanding, and so we've been saving and also fundraising so that we can support the growth of our library system.
And do you have a timeline when you would like to see this new library open in Northwest Barrie?
Yeah, I would say that's a little up in the air right now. Obviously, the location, the sooner the better for that neighborhood. And we'll work with corporate facilities to get that rolling as quick as we can.
And what is the budget right now for the Barrie Public Library compared to last year? Like how much more were you seeking? I saw some numbers. It didn't appear that there was a huge ask.
No, we tried to stick as close as we could to the mayor's directive of 0%. Right. So we came in at a 1% increase in over 2024. And then we were given additional funds to support the growth of the library system and our planning efforts in terms of a new location.
How long have you been with Barrie Public Library, but your career in library services?
I've been with the Barrie Public Library since 2016. I've been the CEO since 2018. Prior to that, I worked as a library consultant in, that's what we were called, in Alberta. I worked for a regional library system in Alberta. I'm from Ontario, but I worked in Alberta for 8 years after I graduated library school, 2008.
But so much has changed too, right? What's the biggest change you've seen in terms of what libraries offer to a community and the expectations on a library too? Because it's also a place I know some people go just because it's a safe environment. So which presents some other challenges.
Absolutely. So there's changes in terms of the collections that we're offering. Obviously, we still have tons of books, but we also have different formats of things as technology changes. We've got lots of video games for people to borrow. Our Library of Things has grown exponentially in the last few years, especially. So we've got musical instruments and snowshoes and a telescope and a karaoke machine and all kinds of stuff that people can borrow, so that they don't have to buy it or store it at home. So that's making the library more accessible for people who may not be readers, so expanding that service that way. In terms of what you mentioned about a community safe space, absolutely. Some people just come to the library to just be in a space where they don't have to spend money. They can be warm. They can be comfortable. They can access the internet. Absolutely. The library as a source to fill that digital divide that exists and that is becoming exponentially worse as things are only online. You have to come in and use the internet, use a computer if you don't have that at home. So all of those pieces make the library a really valuable community hub, especially downtown. We see that, people are coming in with a lot of social and economic challenges. And so we're doing our best. We don't want to become a social agency. There are other groups in the city that are doing that work and they're doing a great job. So we don't want to compete with that. But what we are doing is making sure that people know what's available. So referring them to those other agencies when they come in and say, I don't have food, I don't have somewhere to stay tonight, and just making sure that they know what's available for them. So that's just another information piece that we're providing to the community.
And then the question of the day too is personal. You, a book in your hand or a tablet? What do you like?
Oh, a book in my hand. A book for sure. ebooks and audiobooks are convenient, for sure. I spend so much time on a computer and a phone already through my work, and as a mom, I spend a lot of time on a phone and stuff. So I think just a book. It's just nice to have a real book.
Autism Awareness Day, a little under a week away, the focus shifting from awareness to embracing and understanding the diversity of individuals on the autism spectrum. Amanda Bizarrowicz has been making great strides with this through IBI Behavioral Services in Barrie, helping to promote development and work on the skills required for greater independence for children on the spectrum. She's with our Will Conkin.
Give us a recap of what IBI Behavioral Services and Unique Minds Academy are, and then, what is your role there?
Yeah, so IBI Behavioral Services is a clinical treatment center, and we are an interdisciplinary clinical service treatment facility, and our focus is around ABA and IBI therapy, along with speech and language pathology and occupational therapy. We have a psychologist on site, and as well as social skills for life, youth hubs, and adult services as well.
Is this what you kind of envisioned the organization and everything was going to be when you first started it back in 2008, you were saying?
No, it's not at all actually what it grew to be. I actually just started it to help out. I think we had 7 or 8 families when we began, and my goal really wasn't to become the scale that we are, but the need grew, and word of mouth is everything. And so, the families that we were servicing back then, we're still servicing to this day in some capacity. So, building relationships and trust with our community has been at the forefront of what we've done, and has really been the grassroots of our establishment.
Coming up is World Autism Day on April 2nd. What is the significance of it, and how has awareness of autism evolved over the years?
I think that autism is everywhere. If you have met one child with autism, you have met one child with autism. Right now, when you're in a school setting or you're in a dance class or a gymnastics class, there's going to be some type of a neurodiversity within that group of children. And I think bringing awareness to our society and making them really aware of, what neurodifferences are, what neurodiversities are. It doesn't look the same for everybody. Everybody has different challenges. Things are different for every child, and just really being aware of that. And the main thing, really teaching our children about kindness and teaching our kids to be kind and be inclusive and live in a world that we accept and that we are able to be inclusive of all kinds and all kids, no matter what their differences are.
What are some misconceptions about autism that still persist?
So around our line of work, specifically with ABA, I think there's still a very large misconception around bad ABA. And, we're talking back into the late 80s, early 90s, and even some agencies that do conduct poor ABA services. A lot of that comes on the heels of different movement groups. And it's really unfortunate because we are very family focused. We are a very neuro-affirming approach in our ways. We are not in the 1980s where we are developing programs that are shock therapy or harmful. We do not create harm. Our goal is really to provide services to a child to be able to live a very meaningful life.
And then what challenges do people with autism and their families face on a daily basis? What do you see at your organization?
We see so much. The main thing is actually funding access. So being able to access funding in Ontario right now is a very extensive wait. Any family that is waiting for services for their child or children could wait anywhere from 3 to 5 years to be able to access services funded through the provincial government. So that is definitely the number one struggle. Therapy and services, speech therapy, occupational therapy, they're not cheap disciplinaries. And you are dealing with regulated health professionals. You are dealing with people that are committed to the child. And unfortunately, a lot of these families have to rely on the government funding. From a school perspective, right now we are seeing it, particularly with our neurodiverse private school at Unique Minds Academy, we are seeing very consistently that parents are turning to us because their children just aren't getting the support that they need in the classroom. And again, that is at no fault of the schools or the principals or the teachers. It's primarily on the heels of the government at this point in time to be able to provide more resources and more funding into the schools to be able to train train teachers and staff who work with these children in the front lines. And unfortunately, the manpower just isn't there to support the level of need in our community right now. So I am seeing that daily, weekly, multiple times, and really hearing a lot of stories in our community, left, right, and center, of children and families that are truly being affected by these gaps in our community.
Speaking about funding, I want to talk about Jordan's principle. It's supposed to cover the funds for services for First Nations children, such as special education. What issues are you having with the government? Because you have some clients using this principle, correct?
We do, yeah. So it started out as a really fantastic program. We actually seeked out the services from Jordan's principle back in 2017 for one of our first clients that came into service. And it started out very strong. The child was actually able to access services at 18 months old. The program was ran very effectively back then. There was not a gap waiting for payment. Fast forward to where we are right now. As of October, November last year, our accounts, unfortunately, at our school and our clinic began to amount significantly, and there was a significant amount of non-payment. Our agency actually, around Christmas time, had to take a loan out because Jordan's principal had owed our two establishments upwards of $600,000. And at the time, we had pushed and tried to get them to get their accounts caught up. Unfortunately, it led to children being discharged from service, some of them without notice, some of them with 24 hours notice, and some of them being told they can't return after Christmas. So you can imagine the crisis state that this left families in. And many of our families that access our services through Jordan's principle are already in a foster care home or are under the care of an alternative guardian. So we're talking about children that are very vulnerable in very vulnerable situations. And unfortunately, we are seeing the impact of what has happened essentially to the dismantling of Jordan's principle.
So the federal Indigenous Services Minister says that $8.8 billion has been put into the principle since 2016 and recently announced that they will continue funding through 2026. Is this just an empty promise?
Yeah, I think that when she is being asked and the minister is being pressed for questions around what is coming, she does continue to go back to the $8.8 billion that has been invested since 2016. So being that we are right around the corner from the election, I think at the end of the day, this is very much a political move. If this was coming forward, then I would like to understand and know why the clients that are at the highest risk that are with us that have been removed have not actually gained approval or received their funding, and why my agency still has to sit here in an outstanding payment with Jordan's principle with hundreds of thousands of dollars outstanding still. So do I think it's going to happen, and do I think they're going to follow through? It's really hard to say. There has been the Canadian Human Rights Tribunal had a ruling in December that they were to comply with the orders of the extensive backlog, and that wasn't met. They were given 15 days to expedite invoices. That hasn't been met. So given the amount of compliance orders that have come forward from the minister herself that have not been followed through on, I'm certain that this is just another one of the false promises.
What are you wanting from the government, and how do you navigate through that through your organization?
I want children to have access to services, vital services that are life-changing. ABA therapy is evidence-based treatment. It is one of the only scientifically proven methods to assist children with autism to live a meaningful life. Jordan's principle, as I mentioned, services a wide range of clients and students that are in very vulnerable situations, have significant levels of trauma, have been removed from home, apprehensions, live in foster homes, and the fact that these are the children also kind of being pushed to the side after years of financials going into these kids to get them to where they are, to just essentially throw them out overnight without support. I'm really turning to the minister. I have sent out numerous emails to Cindy Blackstock, the Carrying Society, Patty Hadju, Pierre Palivet, and all of my emails have gone unresponded to, unfortunately. And it's unfortunate. I want the government to be able to step up. I want the governments to essentially take responsibility. Jordan River Anderson had died at the age of 5 due to both governments not working collectively together and waiting to decide who was going to pay for his care. And ultimately, we are scratching the surface of that being an issue again, because right now the federal government is saying that the provincial government should be held responsible for these services as well, bearing the backlog of services under the Ontario program as well for the Ontario Autism Program.
Is the next move to just keep making noise?
Yeah, I have some nights where I sit there and I think, you know what, if I continue to fight, what is it worth? What is my voice doing? Why do I continue to lose sleep, write emails, stress out, worry for these kids? If nobody else is stepping up to help and to care to the degree that myself and my entire team puts into, my entire team of educators, teachers, therapists, senior clinicians, and nobody's putting forward the effort. And I think that that's the hardest thing. So yes, we continue to persevere. I'll continue to push forward. I'll continue to fight for what I know is right for these children. But I also have to step back and really try to see if there is any trust to be regained with Jordan's principal in particular, with respect to our service partnership moving forward, because there's a lot of broken trust there. There was a lot of false promises on funding coming through and to continue services. It's okay, keep going, it's coming. To be told it's not there. Sorry, we don't know who's paying your bill. And then emails going unresponded to. So it's really unfortunate at this point in time, but I'm hopeful that maybe, you know, if it's not just me alone, it's multiple people, families really stepping up and trying to do what they need to do for their children, then maybe it'll make some headway. But it's tiring. It's hard. It's hard to fight when it feels like I'm fighting alone, when these primary agencies that are set to care for these children aren't doing their part.
Because what's the current situation for those children and their families that are utilizing that at your place?
The families are left in despair. The children are left to either be left at home with their families because schools will not take them on. No school is equipped to enroll a child that is discharged on a Friday for a Monday without proper transition planning being done, observations being done, clinical notes being passed through, behavior protocols being passed along. So it's leaving a really big hole in some families and leading to significant disruptions. One of my families right now, the mom is undergoing a potential job loss because she has to care for her child. Her child's not at school this week. He was cut off this Monday. And these children are sitting at home regressing, and the families are trying. I see the emails, I see the begging, but I think at the end of the day, to have a child on the spectrum, a child with high needs, parents are already tired. And so to take on another challenge of fighting is exhausting for them. And I feel that. And so that's where I really try to be their voice to help where I can and when I can, to kind of back it up a little bit.
Bringing it back to your organization, what are you guys doing for World Autism Day?
So throughout the entire month of April, we do different things around the community. We have a couple community events and community affairs that we will do, and we are doing a school event on April 8th as well that we will be part of, and that is really a big community event with a couple schools in the area to be able to promote our services and to also learn about what else is available in the community, because community partnerships are everything, and that's really the strength and backbone of what we do, is being able to work with other community partners. And if we can't help you, then I know somebody that can, and vice versa. If somebody can't help a child, then maybe they'll refer over to us, right? So really having a complete community working together is key. So being able to do these fairs together and these little community events is key. And then obviously on April 2nd, all of our students and our clients and our staff are asked to wear blue to light it up for World Autism Day. And we just kind of celebrate these amazing little humans that are in our presence every day, that we are so lucky to service and so lucky to be a part of their world. So we celebrate by celebrating them and their success and their achievements.
And how do people find more information about IBI and Unique Minds?
For IBI Behavioral Services, you can just go to our website, which is ibibehavioralservices.com, and our school email address is uniquemindsacademy.ca.
Perfect. Well, thanks very much for coming in today.
Thanks for having me.
And that's our program for this week. Thanks to Ian and Will for their input, to Matt Latter for his technical expertise, and to you for listening. If you like what you've heard, please subscribe to What Barrie's Talking About, rate it, review it. You can also keep up with What Barrie's Talking About on Blue Sky and X at Barrie360, on our website, Barrie360.com, and there's our daily Kickstart podcasts available from any streaming service and on our website. I'm Dan Blakely. Hope you'll join us again next week.